Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we are going to build the classic game of Tic Tac Toe. So let's dive in and understand the problem statement. So the goal here is to create a game which could be played by two players on a 3x3 grid. In a nutshell, the grid will have a 3x3 board, meaning 3 rows and 3 columns. Players will take their turns alternatively to put their symbol, which would be either an X or an O, in an empty cell. The goal for the players would be to put 3 consecutive same symbol either in a row, a column, or in a diagonal pattern. So if the player able to put the 3 consecutive symbol, then that person or player would be declared the winner. If all the squares are filled without a winner declared, then it's a draw. So we will be building the implementation solution of this problem in 3 different phases. In the first phase, we will be creating the board display in a UI. In the second phase, we will be ensuring that the players would be able to mark their options with the symbol X or an O in an empty cell, and also we will be calculating the result after every move of a possible win or a draw. And in the final phase, we will be creating a button which will restart the game by resetting the configuration. So let's hop into the implementation part. Okay, let's get to the first part of our implementation, in which we will be creating a board display in a 3x3 grid form, which will have 3 rows and 3 columns as cells or squares, and players will have the option to mark these cells either with the symbol of X or with the symbol of O. So let's create that display. So for that we have to create a div with the class name, let's say board, which will act as the container or wrapper for the grid in the form of matrix. So let's call it board. Okay, so this is the div. Now inside this we will create a 3x3 matrix. So for that we will be creating a state variable of array data type, and we will pass an array data type in the initial state. So the 9 elements in the array will act as a 3x3 matrix, but it will be originally an array. So let us create a state variable. Let's name it, what can we name it? Let's name it square. Okay, and the getSetter function will be set squares. Now let's say use state, and we pass an array of size 9, and let's fill the values with null. Okay, let's now utilize this array to create 9 different cells or block of contiguous elements where we can fill our symbols of choices, and also from that we will be creating our own grid display of board. So let's create this grid through this squares array. So the squares will iterate over so we will iterate over this squares array through the map function. So let me create a map function which will have an iterator. Let's call it cell. Okay, and it will, or I can also call it square. Okay, it will also have an index as a parameter, which we can use to access different elements or a specific element of the array. So let's say it will return a div element with class name as cell. Okay, all right. Now we can also pass a key prop here with index value. So let's now style this cell div and this board div in our style.css file. So let me start with board and dot cell. Okay, so it will have a height of, let's say, 3 rem, width of 3 rem, and let's say border as 1px solid purple. Alright, so here we can see 9 different block of contiguous elements in aligned vertically. So let's transform this into an array of 3 cross 3. So for that, to convert this into a grid, let's give the display property as grid, and let's repeat for every column grid template column as 3 uh, blocks. So 3 rem, 3 rem, 3 rem. I'm quite naive with CSS, so I am writing the most naive CSS style property for this grid display. So since we can see now we have the grid uh, in our UI with a 3 cross 3 dimension, but it is sticking to the left position of our web page. So let's shift it to the center. For that, since this grid element and this title is both contained in this app container, so let's style this app container. Let's say the display can be flex. Okay, now you can say it is aligned horizontally, since giving the display as flex makes two component aligned in a horizontal direction. So let me give the flex direction as column. Now we can see it aligned column in a column manner. Also give justify content as center and align items as center. Now we can see the items alignment in the center. Now let's focus on giving it some gap. Let's say we give the gap of 8 pixel. Okay, also let's give it some border radius of 5 pixel and cursor as pointer. Alright, now we can see it looking bit better than what we were expecting. So now is the time to ensure that every time a player makes his or her move, the symbol must get filled inside any of this cell. So let us decide how we can do that. So basically it would be decided based on the turn of a player. So let's say the two players are playing, namely player 1 and player 2, and player 1 starts the game. So it will be uh, start with the symbol X. Okay, and alternatively it will switch to O with player 2, and it will repeat alternatively in the same manner. Okay, so it will be X and O and X and O. So if we can create a state variable with the value X and O switching alternatively, then we can create the logic by that. Okay, so let's say we create a state variable called turn and set turn. Then we can have the use state as either X or O. Let's start with X. Okay, initially, then we can say that it will switch to O after some action. Okay, so let's create an event handler. So after click on any of this cell, it will call this event handler. So it will call the on click event handler. And let me create a function along with it, and let's call it click handler index. All right, so let me go and create this function click handler. All right, and inside it we will write our logic for the click functionality. So let's say uh, in order to change or in order to reflect the choices or symbols in this cells, we have to update this grid. So basically, if we are upgrading this grid, then we are upgrading this square state variable. So we cannot directly update a state variable, or we cannot directly mutate a state variable. In order to do that, we have this setter function set squares, through which we can mutate our state variables. So let us create a normal JavaScript variable in which we will copy all the values of square state variable, and then we will mutate on the JavaScript array, and we will pass that new array inside that setter function so that it could get updated through that setter function. So let's create a new array, and it will copy all the values from this state variable squares. Okay, using this spread operator. Okay, now we can say that by mutating the new array at index position, we get, let's say we have the value x, we want to mutate it with x for the time being, and then we will use this setter function of set squares to update this square state variable. Okay, now let's check on this. Okay, it's not showing. There is this problem of index. Okay, we have not passed this index as a parameter. Okay, now let me see. Still not showing. Do we have any problem? Okay, we have not passed the value here. So let me provide it with the value of this iterator called cell. Okay, this square iterator we should pass. So this square iterator is the value of the squares array. Okay, so let's provide me with the value. Okay, now we can see the cells of the grid being filled with the values x. So if we click on other cells as well, it is filling with this value. Okay, now we want to switch alternatively with O. So how can we achieve this? So basically what we are doing is switching the turn from one player to another. So let's, if we are clicking one of the cell from this grid, the moment we click it, we are also switching the turn of a player. So let me set the turn. Okay, so how can we set the turn? Okay, so since we are switching, it depends on whose turn it was last played by. So if the current turn is coming from X, then it should be switched to O. Okay, else it should be switched to X. Okay, now since we are switching from X and O, it is depending upon the turn. So let's just write turn over here in place of this X, so it will set the position dynamically. Okay, let me now check it again by refreshing it. It's okay. Now we can say we can switch from X to O to X to O again. All right, now is the time to calculate our winner on different possibilities. So every time this grid gets updated, we check on some logic whether the winner has been decided or not, or is there any scenario for draw to be concluded. So let's write the logic for that. So for that we will create a function, let's say calculate winner. Okay, and this calculate winner first of all will have all the possibility of deciding a winner. So we can call it a winning combination. So this winning combination can come from certain values. So how can we deduce whether a player has been able to uh, get the win? So we can say that by deducing that there are certain indexes of this array. So this grid is coming from this state variable of array squares. We can say that this is the 0th position, this is the first position, this is the second position, and so on. This is the 8th position. Okay, it's 8th index. So if we have a triplet, okay, and all the triplet values are same, like the value at this 0th, first and second index are similar, then we can say there is a winner. Okay, so similarly this row, this, and then this row, this column, this column, and this column, and this diagonal and this diagonal. So there are 8 winning position, 8 winning possibilities with 8 different triplets. So each triplet could be an array, and there could be 8 arrays. So we can create an array of arrays. So it will be a winning combination of 8 different possibilities of different triplets. So let's create this array. Okay, let's call it winning combination, correct? And this will be an array of arrays. So let's say the first triplet will be 0 comma 1 comma 2. So let's create all the other triplets quickly. So we can say 3 comma 4 comma 5. Okay, let me copy all this. 6 comma 7 comma 8 0, then we have 0 3 6 as column triplet, 8 0 comma 3 comma 6 1 4 7 4 comma 5 comma 8. We have 0 4 8 0 4 and 8. Finally we have 2 4 and 6, 2 comma 4 comma 6. All right, we have all the winning combination with us. Now is the time to come up with a logic which will be helpful to decide the winner of this game. So let us think in this manner. So if in this square array, if at any position 3 values are equal with at these 3 indexes, then we can deduce the winner. So let's say let's loop over this winning combination array one by one and check whether any of this combination uh, is already present in this grid. If it's present, then we can decide the winner. Okay, so let's loop over this array. Let I is equals to 0, I less than winning combination dot length I plus plus. All right, after looping through this, we can say let's destructure these elements from this destructure the values from this triplet. So there will be three values, a comma b comma c, which will be coming from this triplet. So let's say winning combination of I. Okay, all right. So we have destructured the three values. Now we will check on this. So let's say squares of a. So in the square array at the 8th position, whatever the value will be, it could be either x or it could be o. So whatever the value will be is whether equal to the element at the position b, squares of b. Okay, similarly squares of a is equals to squares of c. So we have to write only two conditions, since you all must be aware with the zeroth law of thermodynamics. If a is equals to b and b is equals to c, then a is equals to c. So in that way we can say that all the three values are equal in the triplet, and then we can conclude that the value or the result will be squares of a. Okay, and if we loop over all these elements and we cannot find any of the triplet inside this grid, then we can just return from this loop, we can return from this function, and we can say there are no winner as of now. Okay, so we can return just null. Okay, but we have to check on this function. So when can we call this? Okay, there was this problem that occurred. Okay, all right. So let's decide when can we call this function. So we will be calling this function every time we update this grid. So let's say we put a value or a symbol in this cell, then we will go and call this function to check whether there is a winner or not. Okay, so for this the most suitable approach would be to create a use effect which will have the side effect every time there is an update of this grid. It will call the use effect hook, and inside the use effect hook this function call will be made to check on that. So you can recall from my previous video, in the application of our use effect hook concept, we discussed that in the second scenario where there is a dependency array, and inside the dependency array there is a value. On updation of that value every time we invoke the use effect hook. So let's write the syntax for that. So basically, let me check whether the use effect has been imported. Yeah, it's been imported successfully. So let's create a callback function inside it. It takes a callback function, and along with that it also takes a dependency array. Okay, so inside this dependency array we will have the value of the squares state variable, which we will be changing upon every move. So let me put that value inside it. So squares, it should be squares. Upon every update of this value, the use effect hook will be triggered or evoked. It's called creating a side effect. So let's call this calculate winner function, and we can store the result of the winner function inside a variable. Let's call it result. Okay, so this will have it will either be null or it will be filled with a value of x or o. Okay, so if it's null, then we can go on with our game, and if it's it already have the winner with x or o, then we can just generate the winner and declare it in our UI. So let's say if the result is not null, okay, or it is true, then it's not null, then we can say that we have the winner. So for that, to declare the winner, we have to create a state variable. So let's create the state variable and call it const winner set winner, okay, and it will be, okay, I used the small bracket, and it will be coming from useState, and let's give it the value empty string in the beginning. So if the result has already been decided, then we can say set the winner as result, okay. Now there is another scenario of draw. So if there is a scenario of draw, then we can also set declare the game to be drawn. So let's create a state variable for that as well, and this state variable can have two values. It could either be true or false. So let's create it as a boolean age draw set age draw. All right, it will be coming from useState, and initially let's keep it false, okay. So if the winner has been decided, then here in this if result block, we can say the set age draw is false only. All right, also let me declare it here with the value div dot result. All right, and here we can say the winner is winner. All right, let's check on this. Okay, it should only call this when we have the winner, not when the game is still under progression. So the winner and condition. So let's check on this. Okay, let me reload the UI and check it again. Yeah, we can see that the winner could be deduced from this logic. Now let me make some styling change here. So let me go to the cell and say display as flex, justify content as center, and align items also center, and let's say font size as 2 rem. Okay, now it's looking pretty much well compared to its earlier form. So now let me show you some kind of a bug in this code. So if we have written if we have already declared the winner, still it is allowing me to put some values here, okay. Also, even if we have filled the cell, it is allowing me to refill it with other values. So it should not be the case, because if you can recall in our discussion of problem statement, it was the rule of the game that the cell could be filled only if it's empty. So let me put few condition here. So inside this click handler, we can say if there is a winner, okay, or the squares of index is already filled, either of this is either true, then we can just return from this function and not execute further. Alright, now let me check. So if I have already filled the value, then we can see we can see that we cannot refill it or mutate this value or override this value. So let's just test for the condition where we can decide a winner. Alright, so let me refresh it. It's saying winner is O. It should not be the case. You can see after declaring the winner, it's not allowing me to put any symbol in any of these cells, so it's working all right. So now let us also write the code for this draw condition. So we could do it here in the result section. So if the result has been deduced, then we can declare the winner and set the draw as false. What if there is a draw condition? How can we deduce that? So there is no declaration of the winner, so we can write an else if condition where there is no condition of result, no condition of result to be true, and let's check over this squares array of every element. We'll take a callback function and check, let's say square, and see whether square of any of this value is not equal to null. Okay, so if any of this value returns me false, like then we will not enter this block. But if we find all the values to be true, then we can say that set age draw to be true. Okay, and then we can write the draw condition. So let's write this, and along with that let us also write, if there is no draw condition, neither a draw nor a winner, then we can just generate whose turn it is, so who is going to make the next move. So let me also write that as well. So we can write it in a ternary form using is draw. So not this, we can say if the winner is decided, then do this, else we will check on is there any draw, then we can say div dot result, and inside it we will say the game is the game ended as a draw. All right, and even if this is not the case, if this is not also not the case, then we can say div dot result, and we can show not inside this, it's a mistake from my side, div dot result. I'm waiting for the recommendation to pop up, but it's not popping up for some reason. I think I have made the mistake. Yes, I have made the mistake. It should be here. Let me okay, let me create this div.result from beginning. Let's not wait for this. Let's just create a div manually. With the class name as result, and let's inside this, let's show turn turn. Okay, all right, let me refresh the code. Showing me error of some kind because it's the problem of code syntax, which is code sandbox, which is lagging behind. So let me refresh it. Okay, it says okay, I have made some mistake. I've committed some mistake here. Yeah, it should not be the case. This should be okay. Now we can see the winner is decided. Let me also play the draw scenario. Okay, let's say it will be very much tough to create a draw scenario. Okay, this, we can say this and this. Okay, this is the turn for O. So the game ended as a draw. Now let me style this result, and let's say margin top as 2 rem. Okay, perfect. Font size 2 rem. All right. Color as purple. Okay, now let's also create a state variable or something. Let's create these three scenarios has been covered. Now let's get to the final part of our implementation, which is to create a button which will allow us to reset all the configuration so that players can restart the game and play again. So for that, let's create a div here, okay, which will contain a button with the reset property. So let's create a div dot result, okay, and it will have the button dot reset. All right, so here we can write restart. Okay, now let's go to style.css and write the style for this. Okay, I created with the result property, so let me restart. Okay, let's create the dot reset css style property, inside which let's create margin bottom as 1 rem. Okay, also we can say color as white and background color as purple, padding to be 15 pixel, let's make it 10. Okay, even 10 is more, let's make it 8. Okay, let's also give it the border as none, border radius as 5 pixel. Okay, cursor pointer, okay, and font size 1 rem. Alright, now on click of this it will call a function. So let's create an event handler attached to this. So we will attach the event on click and it will call the event handler reset handler. So let's create this function here. Alright, so we'll call reset handler. Inside this we will make sure that we reset the all the cells value to null, and also we set the turn to the initial value of x as we have done it here, and also let the winner be an empty string. Okay, and if it's a draw then also we have to make it false. So let's say set turn to be x and set winner to be an empty string, set is draw to be false, and set squares to be squares dot fill null. So it will fill all the values of the square array as null. Okay, this was all. Let me check with all the values. So let me go for the winner first. So I will create a winning scenario. So the winner is x. Alright, now let's create a draw scenario. So we can see okay, so the game ended as a draw. So it's working fine. This was all from this video. So we can continue from here in the next videos by creating a modal or something. Like the moment the game ends, there is a modal that pops in this UI. So we will work on that. If you have any other suggestion for any other machine coding problems, then you can suggest me in the comment box. And if you have liked the video, then please give a thumbs up to this video and also subscribe for more such videos. Thank you.